Hey everyone, this is Josh from the Gaming Manual, and in this episode of The Good, The Bad, and The Buggy, we will be discussing Mega Man 3 for the NES. The Good. Topspin. Starting off with the good, we have the Topspin. Growing up, I found out that Topspin could one-shot half of the enemies in the game, and it makes Shadow Man's level a complete joke. Clearly everyone else must have known this as well, because if I figured it out as a child, then everyone must have, right? Well, it wasn't until my mid-20s that I learned that it's actually the opposite. A lot of people seem to dislike the Topspin or thought it was completely unusable. However, in my opinion, Topspin is like Metal Blade for Mega Man 3. And no, I don't mean that as a joke. Topspin really can be effective as it one-shots half of the enemies in the game, and for very little energy at that. Getting the distance and timing of the Topspin will take some practice, but once you learn how to use it, it's going to make the rest of the game a breeze. It's also one of the easiest weapons to get, since Top Man himself actually takes 2 points of damage from the plasma cannon, instead of the normal one. Are those monkeys jumping around causing you problems? Just spin them away. What about those eyeballs, dragonflies, floating faces, or even those jumping rabbits that you see in Shadow Man's stage? No problem, just spin. All you have to do is spin to win.
Congratulations, player wins.
And yes, even the first boss in the first Wily stage is weak to the Topspin. I know the Shadow Blade can one-shot the turtles, but it's much easier just to jump and spin, let the turtles hit you. But I am curious as to what other people may have experienced when using this weapon. Feel free to make a comment below. New Slide Ability. This ability is the best quality of life addition to the entire Mega Man series. And for me personally, being able to slide changes how the game is played completely. Level design, mechanics, and the ability to dodge attacks now by sliding under them make the slide not just a gimmick, but a whole new approach to how you can navigate through each section of a level. I know that some people like Mega Man without the slide, but I can't even begin to count the number of times I've died in Mega Man 2 and thought to myself, really would be nice if I could slide, especially with those death lasers in Quick Man stages. There is also the handy trick of being able to jump out of a slide. This allows you to reach areas that would otherwise be unreachable, or at least would require the aid of Rush in some manner, such as Rush Coil or Rush Jet. Speaking of Rush, the items from Mega Man have now been replaced with Rush. Personally, I think that's a huge benefit, because now you have more personality added to it, instead of just a number, which I find easier to remember a name versus a number, as odd as it may sound, because it typically included its function. You also start the game with Rush Coil, meaning that the game is able to put power-ups into more challenging spots, knowing that you have the ability to reach it. And of course, Marine Rush exists. It can only be used in water, which limits its usefulness, because Rush Jet also can be used in the water. Well, at least we have other uses for the Rush Marine, like jumping on land. So, that's something. Alright, the music. Mega Man 3 overall has one of the best soundtracks. There are a few stages from other games that are better, but overall, Mega Man has some of the best. Top Man and Magnet Man are two worth mentioning. All of the Wily stages have amazing music. And let's be honest, the music didn't need to go this hard, but I'm glad that it did. It really adds to the experience, and even if you're not a fan of the game, you should at least listen to the soundtrack, as it's a great experience on its own. The bad. Having to fight all of the bosses from Mega Man 2. We all know that Mega Man 2 had great sales, but that doesn't mean you should reuse all of the bosses from the previous game in the new one. Really is a terrible idea. I'm already not a fan of the boss rush or boss gauntlets, before every single final Wily fight. Having to do that again doesn't make it more fun. The 4 remade levels have a lot of soft-locked areas where you can get stuck in and either run out of energy or simply can't get out of, and there's no way to die, and you end up having to reset. So unless you actually beat both bosses, you don't really clear the level, and you can end up fighting that first boss over and over and over again. I prefer playing on the original NES, but if I play on a remake, such as Mega Man Collection, I like to create a save state, so I don't have to deal with these bosses all over again. It would be nice if there was a Mega Man 3 hack out there that just removed this one part where you had to refight the bosses. Maybe one day there'll be a Mega Man 3 hack that does this, and we can see what that experience would be like. Gamma, the final boss. Just like in Mega Man 2, the final boss is immune to the plasma cannon. However, it does have 2 different forms, both having 2 weaknesses. That makes it a little better, but you could still softlock if you run out of energy. While I feel that Mega Man 3 has a better final battle, I still think that, like Mega Man 2, it could have been made better if your default weapon at least worked to deal minimal damage. The first form is weak to both Shadow Blade and the Hard Knuckle, both which are fine as they have decent range, so now you don't have to worry about getting too close and getting hurt by the hitbox. But the second form is weak to Topspin and Search Snake, which is unfortunate because that means there is a chance that you could hit the enemy hitbox and take damage. The final boss for this fight is very similar to Mega Man 2 in that they both use a weapon that falls straight to the ground. Not ideal, and likely not the first choice people make, but at least in Mega Man 3, it's a little bit more viable, as the boss is below you. Overall, this boss is a huge letdown when you compare it to other Mega Man games and the final boss experience you get from those games. It's a very simple boss, and it doesn't feel as rewarding as it should. The fight itself is extremely easy, and the mechanics are not too difficult to learn. The last note that I do want to point out is that the game is a prototype. As good as it is, it's full of bugs, glitches, and overall, a lot of unfinished concepts. It seems like everything was there, but it wasn't really polished off. Being a programmer myself, this game feels like an alpha build. The game was developed in less than a year, which isn't enough time to make a full game, but they did manage to release a game that was playable. However, I would recommend looking for the Mega Man 3 improvement hack, which really does polish the game up and make it feel like what it should have been. The Buggy. Remember Topspin and how great it is? Well, that's only because I found out the hard way what happens if an enemy is immune to the Topspin. Topspin has a bug where if an enemy is immune to the damage, instead of bouncing off, you get stuck where you are and will lose a good chunk of energy, if not all of it, and then take damage from collision. Thankfully, there's not too many enemies that are immune to it, so it's not too big of a concern. However, it's an easy glitch to trigger, simply by playing the game. You can also get Rush Jet early. Once you have access to the Shadow Blade, all you have to do is go into the menu, select the Shadow Blade, and then press right. You'll see the cursor hover over an invisible weapon. When you select it, you'll see that it's Rush Jet, but you have no energy. All you have to do is pick up an energy capsule, and then ride on Rush for at least one energy pimp to be consumed, and there you have it. You now have Rush Jet unlocked, permanently. Now you'll have access to Rush for the remainder of the game, and when you beat the level, it will actually refill the energy for you. This trick also works for Rush Marine, in case you really need it for, whatever it may be. Another glitch that I feel should be called out is the one in Gemini Man stage. At the end of the first section, you'll encounter Proto Man, but if you instead slide onto the screen and then jump out of the slide at the very last frame, you'll have enough distance to pass through the platform that Proto Man is standing on. This will result in you hearing the full length of Proto Man's song, after which all music will cut out until either you die or reach the boss's room. In addition, some of the enemy graphics will be glitched. A personal favorite buggy effect for me in this game is in Magnet Man stage. At the beginning of the stage where you have the flying magnets, they lift you up. But if you turn back and play through the first part, you'll have one magnet that spawns going in the opposite direction, and it can carry you through the first part completely unaffected by the other enemy's magnetic pull. Not too much to this one, but it is fun to watch. Mega Man 3 is worth checking out, just for the music alone, but the gameplay is decent, and even with the glitches, the game is fun to play through. The game is longer than Mega Man 2, but personally I find it to be a lot easier and more forgiving to new players, even though it has some softlocks similar to Mega Man 2. This is Josh from the Gaming Manual. If you liked what you saw, hit the like and subscribe button if you haven't already. Let us know of your opinions in the game in the comments below, and we'll see you in the next video.